Thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you today some global work we've been doing on dairy. None of us has all the answers, so it's great to come here and share with you our experiences to date, but also listen as well, because I'm sure you have answers we haven't thought of as yet. I'm Brian Lindsay. I'm the Development Director for the Global Dairy Agenda for Action program called the Dairy Sustainability Framework, which I'm going to explain to you today. I also have the privilege of working with the International Dairy Federation on their Science and Program Coordination Committee, looking at global dairy and looking at the programs the International Dairy Federation gets involved with. But today I'm going to share with you about the Dairy Sustainability Framework, which was launched just last year in November. It's the result of an 18-month independent study by a globally recognised consultancy looking at where dairy needs to go. The dairy industry has been challenged many times, not just here but in other parts of the world, that it needs a standard. You need to have a dairy sustainability standard, a stamp, certification, things like that. Dairy has been very progressive, and we're seeing that here today. You know, not many other industries get together like this and actually look and say, where do we need to go to collaboratively in the future? And I'm just going to share with you today the outcomes of what we've done, and it may just be a framework that you guys might consider going forward to shape what you're doing. I've heard some really key words this morning that sort of fundamentally underpin what I'm going to talk about. Local solutions to local challenges, knowledge exchange, the role of nutrition, the dairy in the nutrition discussion, and also livelihoods, fundamentally important. And, you know, what I'd like to say here is don't think the West has all the answers. A lot of this is being done by the West too, because they recognise they've still got challenges ahead of them as well. And the only way we can do that as dairy is by collaborative work. So let's just have a look here and see what we've got. So the Global Dairy Agenda for Action was initiated in 2009 after the publication of the FAO report, Livestock's Long Shadow. That gave us the kick that we needed to actually say we've got to do something about that. But that was purely focused on a single issue, greenhouse gas emissions. And we've graduated, actually, we've moved on from that. But the GDAA was established in 2009 by those organisations up there. SCI Platform, European Dairy Association, for Parley from Latin America, ASADA from Africa, the International Dairy Federation, the Global Dairy Platform. You'll note that we're missing one key part of the world there, and that's Asia. And that's why we need to engage with you and get you involved in our program as well. But what we did is it was a public commitment saying we're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as a dairy sector globally. We're going to put in place actions. And we supported this initiative by a very public-facing website that was purely examples of what we're doing globally to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that was hosted at the IDF website and promoted what dairy industry was doing globally. We ended up with over 340 examples of what the dairy industry was doing globally. So a very, very public example. But we've moved on from that. We've graduated, we've kept talking, we haven't stopped still. We've talked together as a dairy sector and said, actually, we can't do a single issue alone. This has to be a sustainability approach. It has to look at the economics, it has to look at the environmental, and it has to look at the social aspects of what we're trying to achieve if we're going to achieve our ambitions as a sector. So the Dairy Sustainability Framework is a program of the Global Dairy Agenda for Action. It's the next stage of our evolution as a dairy sector, and it's a program for aligning, connecting sustainability initiatives that demonstrates leadership of the sector, okay, and progress on a global basis. And that somebody was talking about measuring progress very earlier in the day today. Fundamentally important and a real challenge for us as an industry who want to see continuous improvement as our progress measurement. It's very easy to talk about continuous improvement, but quantifying that progress is immensely challenging. We've seen enough about how the growth in Asia is going to go on, but looking at global growth, we've worked out, if you look at the middle statement there, if we're going to go on current production standards, we need an extra 83 million additional cows. Well, actually, there's other ways to achieve that, but putting it in a very basic sense, to achieve that, we need sustainable solutions, hence why we're here today. We got an independent study done, and we got them to look at dairy from outside in and say, what do we need to do? Do we need a standard? What do we need to do to make sure dairy is recognised as providing a sustainable future? And the consultants came back with three key outcomes. They looked at current standards. We got them to look globally, and they reviewed initiatives all around the world, and they also had many interviews around the world of different, and we split the world into 11 different regions. They came back and said, current standard models in use by other industries shows there's some limitations, so maybe a standard's not right for dairy. We've got such a diverse way of producing dairy globally, which we've heard about already this morning, even within the Asian context. A standard would have so many variants, it may become meaningless for some, so that may be not the right way forward. But don't lose sight of it. It may be right in the future. You've got to walk before you run as an industry. So what they came back and said, you need to develop a framework that allows those local solutions to local challenges. Okay, but the framework is designed to do three key things. Align global ambition under some criteria. What do we want to achieve in sustainability? Connecting the initiatives. Talking about water earlier, an initiative in Israel or somewhere like that may just work in India. We don't know. It's about sharing information and being able to progress faster as an industry, and that's the last point. How do we progress collaboratively? Because this is about dairy having a sustainable future. So the vision of the framework, a vibrant dairy sector, we all want that, committed to continuously improving its ability to provide safe and nutritious products from healthy cattle while preserving natural resources, ensuring decent livelihoods across the industry. And that's what we want to try and achieve as an industry. A typical consultant's diagram, I should say that, I'm one myself, but we have a global layer there at the top, up here, but what we want to do is allow all the regional activities going on down here at the bottom to happen at the regional level. What we want to do is capture it under this umbrella and promote and encourage others to get involved with sustainable development of the dairy sector. But the important thing where I think we've been challenged previously is down the bottom. Putting in performance milestones, our key performance measures. What do we want to achieve? So many programs have been developed, and I think we'll all know at least one in the past, where we set this great initiative running, but we don't know when we're succeeding. What do we want to achieve? They give us a nice warm feeling that we're doing something good, but are we actually making a difference? 11 key criteria that won't be any surprise to you all, that cover the three key areas of social, economic and environmental. And what we've done is put underneath those, and here's just some examples, a strategic intent. So the framework doesn't dictate to you what you have to do, it gives you that strategic intent underneath. For example, greenhouse gas emissions. It's about understanding where your emissions are coming from and then trying to do something about it. And that's as far as the framework goes. You need to decide how in your local region you deliver that. And that's the beauty of the framework. It doesn't dictate how you deliver. It just captures and aligns our industry going forward. And I assure you, Mr. Kumar did not ask me to do this based on his presentation, but I'm going to profile the Dairy Development Board in India as an example. We've got them here. Oops, sorry. So here, market development. Okay, that's the key area, and our strategic intent here is participants along the dairy value chain are able to build economically viable businesses, if I go back, through the development of transparent and effective markets. That's the strategic intent. That's what we want to achieve. The Dairy Development Plan in India talks about the Mission Milk Program, and we heard earlier how it's working on genetics first. Let's get the genetics improved. Let's get our Ferraris there. Now let's feed them properly. Let's give them the right balanced diet to make sure we get what we achieve, what we want to achieve. Then we are adjusting. We're checking it and adjusting and refocusing all the time, and that's what we're trying to do, encourage. Dairy and previously have put lots of programs in place. What we haven't done is communicated and measured our progress. So I won't go into this in any great detail, but the framework allows you, as Dairy Asia or individual companies, individual farmers, to actually put your own programs in place, learn from others, but be aligned in a strategic process going forward that will enable us to communicate that dairy does take sustainability seriously and taking it forward in a progressive way. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop.
Thank you very much, Brian.